There are lots of games like dating sims, life sims, and RPGs where you can date and even marry characters. But to my knowledge, no game has 38 fleshed out, completely unique and scripted characters that you can date, marry, and even start a family with. That is no other game than the game we're talking about today, Mistwinter Bay. In this video, I'll introduce you to all of the 38 characters you can date in this game. If you're already familiar with Mistwinter Bay, you can skip to this timestamp. If you're not familiar with it, I think it's best to start with a quick Q&A. What is Mistwinter Bay? Mistwinter Bay is a visual novel RPG that is set in a fictional fantasy world. You play as a sovereign, which is a mix between a mayor and royalty, of the town of Mistwinter Bay. You play during an in-game span of 5 years, during which you can expand your town by building buildings, take care of things in unique events that occur every month, and, of course, get to know the people who live in your town. Almost all of the buildings you can build have their own unique character who will move into town when you build their specific building. What does it mean to date a character? By dating a character, you get to know them in 5 different hangout events that you trigger actively when they like you enough. You also have to complete the character's personal quest, which is a story that can end in several different ways. Once you've completed all 5 hangouts and the personal quest, you can propose to the character and marry them the next month. When you're married, you'll get 3 small events with your spouse that's completely unique to whomever you married. You can also adopt a child if you want to. We have several videos discussing these things already, so you can watch them if you want to know more. Is the game out yet, and on which platforms? Mistwinter Bay is only available publicly in the demo format for now, but the game is currently under development and the full release is planned for some time in 2024. It will be released on PC via Steam and itch.io. There are links in the description if you want to check out the demo. Who is developing the game? Swordlake Entertainment. That means me and my brother. If you have more questions, you can leave them in the comments and we'll answer them there. But now it's time to get into the characters. We'll divide them into 3 groups so that those of you who are familiar with the game can skip where you want to in the video. Here are the timestamps for each category. In Mistwinter Bay, there are 4 more powerful rulers than yourself. One is the Empress Ophelia of the empire you're part of, but you can't date her. The other 6, which we call foreign leaders, you can date. 2 of them rule human countries, whilst the other 4 rule countries of non-humans, or so-called elementals. The first ruler you can date is President Camilla of the Republic of Meblia. She's a prime example of a Meblian since she's both sneaky, charismatic, and shrewd. If you want to date her, get ready for many parties, but also being an extra wheel in her marriage. She's already married to 3 people after all. Oregnyd is king of Utra, a rocky island far out at sea. He may seem stern, but he has a kind, caring heart. You'll have to be a fan of boats and shipbuilding if you want to date him. He even trained to be a shipbuilder before inheriting the crown. The first ruler of the elemental countries is Seva Denago, queen of Achate, an island full of fire elementals. After winning a fighting tournament that gave her her crown, Seva has been seen as the pinnacle of Achatans. She encapsulates the fierceness, ruthlessness, and fighting spirit that her people are known for. Lemion Idala is called the supreme ruler of Fladol, but Chief Idala works just as well. He's the ruler of Fladol, an icy island which is home to the ice elementals. As the head of his clan, he's not only the most powerful merchant on the continent, but one of the wealthiest people in the entire world. Unfortunately, not all of that money has been gained from selling morally justifiable wares. Gaird Saramak is the Derem Somak, or High Priest, of the country of Iskor. It's the land of earth elementals. Gaird encapsulates his people's wisdom, which is gained through long lifespans and love for magic. He is the only individual on the continent who can communicate with the mysterious and dangerous entity known as the Void. Eria is the Seimiori of the country Ethal, the land of air elementals. The title Seimiori proves that she is the best songstress in all of Ethal, which is a big deal since Ethalian culture is heavily centered around singing. She's a kind, caring, and diplomatic individual who strongly adheres to the Ethalian love of the god Avril and hatred for magic. In the demo of Mistwinter Bay, there are 8 characters that can live in your town. We call them townsfolk. Out of these 8, 3 of them live in your town from the very start. The other 5 move in when you build their corresponding building. The first character who lives in Mistwinter Bay from the start is the Avalorist priestess Dawn Chamberlain. She's a calm, kind individual who has devoted her life in service of the god Averil. If you want to date her, you can expect a lot of religious discussions, and a bit of religious intolerance too. The innkeeper, Cecil IV, also lives in Mistwinter Bay from the start. He's the owner and caretaker of the town's only inn. That's a pretty big deal, since you'll probably visit the inn several times in a playthrough. Although he's not your typical innkeeper, since he's not very sociable and seems to be a lot more interested in something else rather than hosting guests. The last character who lives in the town from the start is the graveyard keeper, Edwin Fosper. They're a bit of a loner, working around the clock to care for the graveyard. Although, there are a lot of rumors circulating that Edwin might have more to do with the dead than simply caring for their graves. The first demo character who can move into Mistwinter Bay by building a building is the mage Olmdrias. Olm is an Isgorian who is determined to help others through magic. Since Isgor is a country of magic, he felt he had to leave and settle someplace where magic uses are more rare. That's why he can live in Mistwinter Bay. And if he does, you might even get the chance to contribute to a major discovery in the world of magic. Amari Anglia is an Athalian alchemist who left her home country due to its strict regulations for alchemical research. She's very knowledgeable about alchemy, but her lack of regard for rules and safety can make her a bit of a handful. However, she might be worth supporting if you'd like some boons in liquid form. Birgit Nagström is an Uthrian fisher who left Uthra due to its poor treatment of women. Despite her shy demeanor, she's always eager to help. Her skills with fishing are often compared to incredible luck, since she always seems to catch more fish than is humanly possible. Hector Grey is a lumberjack who was born and raised in Mistwinter Bay. As the third generation lumberjack to the Grey family, he's more than fit to be in charge of a lumber camp. Despite his inability to read and write, he's well respected among locals for his bravery and fairness. Celia Quinn is the guard captain, or rather she becomes the guard captain once you build the barracks. She's the epitome of a warrior and leader, but some people fear her due to her hatred for bandits. Rumor has it that her bandit hatred comes from some sort of personal history with them. In this section, we'll introduce the 24 townsfolk who aren't in the game's demo, at least the current version of the demo. We won't have any sort of footage to show for some of these characters since not all of them have been added to the game yet. Yules Crescent is a Voidist priestess who can replace Dawn if you build a Voidist shrine in Mistwinter Bay. She's a pretty sneaky and suspicious person, but her knowledge on topics related to the Void is vast and earns her respect in the local Voidist community. Although, some people fear she might be a bit too close to the Void. Moira Fleming is a tailor who moved to Mistwinter Bay from the nearby island of Stain. A personal tragedy where she ended up killing her own husband left her physically and emotionally scarred. However, given Moira's kind and harmless demeanor, people suspect there's more to her past than what is publicly known. Gale Smith has the same profession as his last name implies. He's a quiet, stoic man who prefers to work in peace rather than interact with people. Unfortunately for him, he's one of the most skilled weaponsmiths on the continent, which has earned him both praise and jealousy. Neferu Ix is a theater director who lives her life to the fullest. Every play she puts on is as entertaining as the stories she tells about her own life experiences. However, with a life as wild as hers comes a fair bit of trouble. There are rumors about a Meblian man who has been looking for her. Doug Moriarty is a guard tower captain who, despite his perceived laziness, takes his job very seriously. Although that doesn't stop him from attempting to grow plants at the guard tower. Whenever he's in town, he's always on the lookout for wheelbarrows for some reason. Edmund Abak is a physician who spent many years treating the sick and wounded. Despite his top grades at the continent's best university, he decided to become a traveling doctor, rather than settle down in a large city and live off of treating the wealthy. Things Lioness is a hunter who claims to be from Mistwinter Bay, but no one seems to recognize her. She simply showed up one day and has been seen in the local forest since. No matter what her past looks like, there's no denying that she's an incredibly skilled hunter. Teroga Yado is an Achaitan lighthouse keeper. Unlike most Achaitans, Teroga isn't afraid of the water and it doesn't seem to hurt him that much. As a matter of fact, he loves the sea. He loves it so much that he left his home country to study shipbuilding in Utra. Since he couldn't find a job there, keeping a lighthouse lit with his fire powers seems like a good profession for him. Kieran Teriani is a Meblean ship captain who knows a lot about trading and hunting mermaids. Wherever Kieran goes, there always seems to be young women following, swooning over the charming yet slightly mysterious man. Kieran claims that he wants to settle down in Mistwinter Bay for a calm life, but some have a hard time believing that. Faye Miller is exactly what her last name suggests. Having grown up as a miller's daughter, she knew a lot about the trade from an early age. Unfortunately, that didn't stop her arm from getting crushed at her family's mill. Luckily, Faye is both handy and inventive, and the very flexible prosthetic arm she wears is her own creation. Oscar Sweet is a local wheat farmer. He's been sickly since a young age and has spent many months in bed. Despite that, he still knows all there is to know about farming, and he somehow has the physical strength to take care of an entire farm on his own. Most of the time, at least. Yamileth Yagora is a dean of the university you can build in Mistwinter Bay. She's just as strict and proper as one would expect, except when it comes to sports. Many are surprised that such a fashionista is also the very person who made the previously underground sport of boxing officially recognized and legal. Lilith Bale is a quarry miner from Utra. Work on her family's farm made her stronger than most men and provided her with means to stand up on her own two legs. She left Utra to look for her purpose in life, a profession that she would enjoy. Despite being a good foreman at the quarry, she still wants to keep her mind open for other job opportunities. Sebastian Tallermorn is a librarian who tries to have people stop comparing him to his famous aunt. Actually, he tries to have most people leave him alone in general. People who knew him from an early age claim that he wasn't always such a recluse, but a trip abroad changed him. Euphemia Kudarth is a brothel manager who is in charge of men and women of the night. Even though Euphemia isn't an active courtesan anymore, she makes sure that everyone who works under her does so willingly. If not, she finds alternatives for them via a vast social network created from years of good deeds. St. Maurice is one of the continent's most skilled jewelers, despite his lack of eyesight. A trading trip with his family ended in tragedy as Saint lost both his family, vision, and almost his life. Despite that, he's working hard to pursue his lifelong dream of creating beautiful jewelry pieces for those who appreciate his work. Jerome Gotts is a stable master who cares about few things beside horses. His skills with handling the animals is one of a kind, but that doesn't help him to find work. Rumors about an indecent relationship has made some people hesitant to hire him in fear that he might continue with such relationships in his new workplace. Leith Darda is a tavern master who creates imaginative and delicious dishes inspired by the 3 different countries he has lived in. Having grown up in a family of innkeepers made him skilled with handling customers at an early age. However, as an adult, things don't seem to have gone particularly well for him, judging by the sad look in his eyes. Eilinor Elena is a flagellan with vast knowledge about the black market, after years of personal connections in it. If you're brave enough to take the risk to invite the black market to Mistwinter Bay, you'll get a very skilled supervisor to look over transactions and make sure that you and the town receive as much profit as possible. Eugene Greenfield is a banker who is proud of his lineage as the illegitimate son of a noblewoman. His skills with numbers and talent for art made him dream of becoming an architect. However, both family and fate prevented him from following that dream, and instead, he had to put his numerical skills to use in the banking business. Ulvar Fried is a merchant from Utra who can be the supervisor of Mistwinter Bay's marketplace. No one has a bad word to say about him, which might have to do with his many connections and immense wealth. There's no denying that he can bring lots of profit to town by relocating his personal trading empire there. Marla Georgine is a local noblewoman who you, the sovereign, have known since your childhood. Giving her devotion to you and Mistwinter Bay, making her the town secretary can be a good idea. She knows both the people and the area like the back of her hand and always seems to find a solution to any disputes in town. Roccariero is a Meblean winemaster who loves wine just as much as he loves the life of the nobility. Since he doesn't have a noble title of his own, his goal is to get one and he isn't afraid to admit it. That might mean you'll have to receive a request or two about such a title. Emily Doneau is a Meblean bathhouse keeper who wants to treat people with the healing properties that hot baths can provide. Having been sick for most of her life, Emily wants to give other people the freedom that she has finally gotten. and she certainly doesn't mind listening in on gossip while healing people at the bathhouse. And those are all of the 38 dateable characters in Mistwinter Bay. Obviously, there's a lot more to each character than the little information we've shown in the video now. They all have a bunch of content that you can only experience in the full game. So if you haven't already, we suggest you wishlist the game on Steam to get notified when it releases next year. If you have any questions about the game or the characters, feel free to leave them in the comments below. With that, I thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.